Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, where I dive into the wildest family drama stories. Picture this: I'm cooking dinner, thinking it's just another Tuesday, when my wife drops a bombshell. "I'm leaving tonight, don't contact me again." Just like that, my world flips. But here's the kicker. 3 days later, she's banging on my door, begging me to turn her credit cards back on. What happened? Why did she leave? And what made her come crawling back? I'm about to take you through my story, login story, of betrayal, tough choices, and standing my ground. It's a roller coaster of emotions with twists you won't see coming. Will I give in, or will she face the consequences of her actions? Stick around to find out, and hit that subscribe button for more jaw-dropping drama. Let's get into it. So there I was, just another Tuesday night in our suburban home, stirring a pot of spaghetti, the smell of marinara sauce filling the kitchen. I'm Logan, 38, just a regular guy who works hard to keep things together. My wife, Alexis, 35, was sitting across the kitchen island, glued to her phone, barely acknowledging me. It wasn't unusual. She'd been distant for weeks, maybe months. I figured she was scrolling through Instagram, planning her next inspiration trip. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but I thought we were okay. Boy, was I wrong. Out of nowhere, Alexis looked up and hit me with it. "I'm moving out tonight. Don't contact me again." Just like that, no warning, no discussion. My hand froze on the wooden spoon. The sauce bubbled, but I felt like the air got sucked out of the room. I looked at her, expecting some kind of explanation, but she was back to her phone, like she'd just told me she was grabbing coffee. Now let me pause here. Most people would lose it, beg, yell, try to fix things. Not me. I've always believed if someone wants to walk out, you don't chase them. You let them go. So, I just said, "Okay." One word. That's it. Alexis finally looked up, her eyes narrowing like she was annoyed I didn't put up a fight. I could see a flicker of surprise, maybe even frustration. She wanted a scene, and I wasn't giving her one. "Amy, aren't you saying anything?" she asked, her voice sharp. I shrugged, pointing to the duffel bag by the island, already half-packed. "Looks like you've got this figured out," I said. That bag wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. She'd been planning this probably for days, maybe weeks. That realization hit me hard. Not the leaving, but the secrecy. It wasn't just her walking out, it was her plotting it behind my back. Let's talk about that for a second. In relationships, trust is everything. When someone breaks it like that, it's not just a betrayal of the moment. It's a betrayal of every moment you thought you shared. I've read about this in psychology books. When someone plans to leave without a word, it's often because they're already halfway out the door emotionally. They're building a new life in their head, and you're just not part of it. Alexis's bag told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't just unhappy, she had an exit strategy. I asked her, "What's this about? You're not happy?" She sighed like I was the one being difficult. "I need space, Logan. I'm not happy. I'll get my stuff later. I'll contact you when I'm ready to talk about the rest." The rest. I knew what that meant. Divorce. She wasn't just leaving for a breather. She was done. I nodded, keeping my cool. "Fine," I said. And that was it. She grabbed her bag, her purse, the keys to her car. Yeah, the one I paid off last year, but that's her name on the title, so whatever, and walked out. No glance back, the door clicked shut, and the house went silent except for the pasta water boiling over. I stood there for a good 10 minutes, staring at the mess on the stove. The sauce was scorched, the kitchen smelled like failure, but something clicked in my head. Clarity. She made her choice, and now it was my turn to make mine. I wasn't going to sit around feeling sorry for myself. I turned off the stove, grabbed my laptop, and got to work. Here's where things get interesting. Alexis didn't just want out. She wanted out while keeping all the perks of our life together. I'd been the one funding her lifestyle. Her part-time job as a stylist barely covered her coffee runs, let alone her designer bags or those self-care spa days. My income kept us comfortable. Nice house, nice car, nice everything. But if she was done with me, she was done with all that too. Fair's fair, right? I pulled up our accounts. First, her Amex Platinum card, the one she loved flashing at restaurants. It was a supplementary card on my account. I logged in, clicked Cancel Authorized User, and it was gone. Reason? Cardholder no longer authorized. Next, her Visa, also tied to my account. Snip, canceled. Then, the big one. The automatic monthly transfer to her personal account. A generous chunk of my paycheck went to her for personal spending. Not anymore. I scheduled that to stop, effective immediately. I even turned off her international roaming, those inspiration trips she loved. She'd have to fund them herself now. Was I angry? Not really. This wasn't about spite. It was about consequences. Alexis wanted freedom, and I was giving it to her. All of it. No more leaning on me to bankroll her new life. I've seen this play out before. A friend of mine, Jake, went through something similar. His girlfriend moved out saying she needed space, but kept using his Netflix, his gym membership, even his car. When he finally cut her off, she flipped out, calling him selfish. Sound familiar? People want the benefits without the commitment. I wasn't going to let that happen. I sat down to eat that burnt pasta alone. It tasted like ash, but honestly, I didn't care. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. Not the fake freedom Alexis was chasing, but the real kind. The kind where you take control of your life. I slept better that night than I had in months. So what's the takeaway here? When someone blindsides you like that, it's easy to react with emotion, to beg, to fight, to fall apart, but staying calm, like I did, gives you power. It lets you see the situation for what it is. Alexis thought she could walk away and keep everything the same. She was about to learn that choices have consequences, and I was just getting started. Stick around, because this story's about to get wilder. After Alexis walked out that night, leaving me with a pot of burnt pasta and a silent house, I didn't waste time wallowing. Her words echoed in my head. Don't contact me again. Fine, I thought. But if she was cutting ties, I wasn't going to keep funding her escape. I turned off the stove, grabbed my laptop and sat down in the living room. The weight of her betrayal was heavy, but clarity was kicking in. She wanted freedom? She'd get it. Every bit of it, including the responsibility that comes with it. This wasn't about revenge. It was about protecting myself and setting boundaries. Let's dive into what I did next and why it mattered. First, I pulled up our financial accounts. Alexis had always loved her Amex Platinum card, the one she'd flash at fancy restaurants or boutiques. It was a supplementary card on my account, tied to my income. I logged into the bank's website, found her card, and clicked Remove Authorized User. Done. Reason? Cardholder no longer authorized. It felt like cutting a string. Clean. Final. Next up was her Visa, another supplementary card I'd added for her convenience. Same deal, snip, canceled. Then I went for the big one, the monthly transfer from my checking account to hers. Every month, I'd send her a generous sum for her personal spending. Spa days, designer clothes, you name it. Her part-time styling job barely covered her lattes, let alone her lifestyle. That transfer was set to hit next week. Not anymore. I canceled it, effective immediately. I didn't stop there. Her phone plan was under my name, part of our family account. I left her line active for now. Didn't want to be cruel, but I disabled international roaming. Those inspiration trips she loved, jetting off to Paris or Bali for self-discovery, she'd have to figure out how to pay for them herself. Car insurance? It was paid up for 3 months, so I'd deal with that later. Every click felt like reclaiming a piece of my life. I wasn't angry. Not really. This was logic, pure and simple. Actions have consequences, and Alexis was about to learn that. Let's pause for a moment to unpack this. Setting boundaries like this isn't easy, especially after a decade of marriage. In psychology, there's a concept called enmeshment, where one partner relies so heavily on the other that they lose their own independence. Alexis had gotten comfortable leaning on me financially, emotionally, even logistically. When she walked out, she probably thought she could keep that safety net. By cutting it, I was forcing her to face reality. It's tough, but sometimes that's the kindest thing you can do, not just for yourself but for them. It's like telling a kid they can't have dessert until they eat their vegetables. Tough love, you know? This reminds me of a real story I heard from a coworker, Mike. His ex-girlfriend Lisa moved out after a fight, saying she needed space, but she kept using his credit card for takeout and subscriptions. Mike let it slide for a month, thinking she'd come back. She didn't. Finally, he canceled the card, and Lisa showed up at his office, furious, saying he was ruining her life. Sound familiar? Mike learned the hard way. If you don't draw the line, people will keep taking. I wasn't about to make that mistake. Now, you might be thinking, Logan, isn't this a bit harsh? I get it, cutting off financial support sounds cold, especially when you're still married. But let's be real. Alexis didn't just leave, she planned it, packed her bag, and told me not to contact her. She was rewriting our story without me. If I kept funding her, I'd be enabling her to live a lie, free to start over while I footed the bill. That's not fairness, that's exploitation. I've read about cases like this on Reddit, like a guy whose wife moved in with her friend, but expected him to keep paying her car loan. When he stopped, she called him selfish. The pattern's clear. Some people want the perks without the partnership. I finished my laptop session and looked around the house. It felt emptier, sure, but also lighter. I'd spent years building a life for us. Nice house, nice cars, nice vacations. I'd paid off her car, covered her bills, gave her freedom to chase her dreams, and she repaid me by sneaking out like I was a landlord, not a husband. That stung, but it also lit a fire. I wasn't going to let her choices define me. Eating that scorched pasta alone wasn't fun. It tasted like regret, like 10 years gone in a single night. But as I chewed, I realized something. I was okay. Not great, not yet, but okay. I'd taken the first step to protect myself. I wasn't the bad guy here, no matter what Alexis or her friends might say. I was just a guy saying, enough. Here's a quick lesson from this moment. When someone betrays you, your first instinct might be to fix it, to make it right. But sometimes, the best move is to protect your own peace. I could have called Alexis, begged her to talk, but that would have given her the power. Instead, I took control. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. It's like locking your door after a break-in. You're not punishing the thief. As I cleaned up the kitchen, I felt a strange calm. The house was quiet, but it wasn't lonely. It was mine again. I slept surprisingly well that night, better than I had in months. Maybe it was the relief of finally drawing a line. But deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. Alexis wasn't going to take this lying down. She'd come back, and when she did, I'd be ready. Stick with me, because the next part of this story is where things get really intense. 3 days after Alexis walked out, leaving me to clean up the wreckage of our marriage, I thought I'd seen the last of her. I'd canceled her credit cards, stopped the monthly transfers, and even disabled her phone's international roaming. I was ready to move on, or at least try to. But Alexis had other plans. On Friday night, around 9 p.m., I was lounging on the couch, finally watching a show I liked on the big TV, when I heard it thump, thump, thump. Someone was pounding on my front door like their life depended on it. I checked the peephole, and there she was, Alexis, looking like a mess. No designer jacket, no polished makeup, just a gray hoodie, messy hair, and a face full of panic. I opened the door, and the drama exploded. Let's get into it. Logan, she gasped, like she'd run a marathon. My card got declined at dinner. I leaned against the doorframe, keeping my cool. Yeah, I said, I canceled it. Her jaw dropped, eyes wide with shock. You what? Why? The entitlement was radiating off her, like I'd committed a crime. I stayed calm, almost too calm. You moved out, Alexis. You said, don't contact me. That card was for our household. You're not part of it anymore. Your choice. She blinked, like she couldn't process it. But I needed that. I was with Vincent, and it was so embarrassing. Vincent. So that's the friend she was dining with. Interesting that he wasn't picking up the tab. Let's hit pause here. This moment was a masterclass in entitlement. Alexis genuinely believed she could leave me, start a new chapter, and still have me bankroll it. In psychology, This is called cognitive dissonance, when someone holds two conflicting beliefs, like wanting independence but expecting support. Alexis wanted the freedom to walk away, but the comfort of my wallet. I wasn't having it. Her reaction reminded me of a story I read on Reddit about a woman who left her boyfriend but kept using his Hulu account. When he changed the password, she called him petty. Same vibe. People like this think they're owed something, even after burning bridges. I kept my stance in the doorway, not inviting her in. Sounds like a you and Vincent problem, I said. Her face twisted, tears starting to form. This isn't fair, Logan. My visa's not working either. I nodded. Also canceled. She was unraveling now, her voice climbing. And the monthly transfer didn't come through. How am I supposed to live? I stayed steady. That was your allowance. As my wife, part of our life together. You ended that. You've got your job, your car, your own account. Figure it out. For a second, I saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes, like the weight of her choices was hitting her, but then it vanished, replaced by anger. We're still married, she shouted. You can't just cut me off like this. Oh, but I could. And I had. I'd already talked to a lawyer friend to make sure I was in the clear. The house is mine, Alexis, premarital property. The cards were on my accounts. The allowance was a gift, not a requirement. You know that. Her tears turned to sobs. Maybe real, maybe not. Please, Logan, just turn the cards back on for a week, just until I get on my feet. That was the moment I could have caved. 10 years of marriage flashed through my mind. Our wedding, our vacations, the life we'd built. But then I remembered her cold exit, her packed bag, her don't contact me. She'd nuked our marriage without a second thought. I wasn't going to be her ATM. No, I said, firm but not cruel. That door's closed. You closed it. Her face hardened, and she swiped at her tears. You'll regret this, Logan, she hissed. I shrugged. Already regretting 10 years, Alexis. This is just cleanup. I started to shut the door. I'll get a lawyer, she screamed, stomping off into the night. I closed the door, took a deep breath, and poured myself a whiskey. Round 1 was over. Let's talk about why this moment was so pivotal. Standing my ground wasn't easy, but it was necessary. In relationships, especially after a betrayal, you're tested. Will you hold your boundaries or will you fold? I chose to hold firm, not out of spite, but because I valued myself. This reminds me of a real-life example from a friend, Emma. Her ex-husband left her for someone else, but kept asking for loans to cover his rent. Emma said no, and he called her heartless. But by refusing, she reclaimed her power. Like Emma, I wasn't punishing Alexis, I was protecting my peace. There's a bigger lesson here about consequences. In life, we all make choices, but we don't get to pick the fallout. Alexis thought she could walk away and keep her cushy lifestyle. When that didn't happen, she lashed out, blaming me. It's a classic move. Deflect responsibility to avoid accountability. I've seen this in countless stories online, like a guy whose ex denied alimony after cheating, then cried unfair when the judge denied her. Actions have ripples, and Alexis was feeling them now. As I sipped my whiskey, I felt a mix of relief and unease. Relief because I'd stood my ground, unease because I knew this wasn't the end. Alexis's threat about a lawyer wasn't just talk, she'd escalate, and I had to be ready. But for now, I'd won this round. I'd shown her that I wasn't a doormat. The house was quiet again, but it felt different, like I was reclaiming it, piece by piece. So, what's the takeaway? When someone pushes you, especially after betraying your trust, holding your boundaries is your superpower. It's not about being mean, it's about respecting yourself enough to say, no more. Alexis thought she could have it all, freedom and my money. She was wrong, and she was about to learn just how wrong. Hang tight, because the next part of this story brings even more drama, with her family jumping into the fray. You won't want to miss it. After Alexis stormed off into the night, threatening lawyers and vowing I'd regret cutting her off, I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd get the hint. I'd held my ground, kept my cool, and shut the door, literally and figuratively. But if I thought the drama was over, I was dead wrong. The next day, Saturday afternoon, I was trying to reclaim some normalcy, sorting through bills in the living room, when my phone buzzed. It was Marilyn, Alexis's older sister, calling. I sighed, knowing this wasn't going to be a friendly check-in. I answered, and the fireworks began. Buckle up, because this is where the family piles on. "Logan, what the hell is wrong with you?" Marilyn's voice blasted through the phone. No hello, no pleasantries. "You're starving my sister, canceling her cards, cutting her money. How dare you?" I leaned back on the couch, pinching the bridge of my nose. Marilyn's always been protective of Alexis, but this was next level. "Marilyn," I said, keeping my tone even. "Alexis left me, she packed a bag, told me not to contact her, and walked out. She made her choice." Marilyn scoffed, like I'd just told her the sky was green. "She's your wife, Logan. You don't get to abandon her like this." Abandon her? The irony was thick. I couldn't help but laugh, which probably didn't help. "She abandoned me, Marilyn. She planned it, snuck out, and now she's shocked there's no free ride? She's got a job, a car, and apparently Vincent. I'm not her ATM." Marilyn went ballistic. "Vincent's just a friend. You're a controlling monster, Logan, punishing her for needing space." I rolled my eyes. Controlling? I'd given Alexis everything. Money, freedom, support. For 10 years. If anything, I'd been too generous. Let's unpack this. Marilyn's reaction is classic family interference. In psychology, this is called triangulation, where a third party gets pulled into a conflict to gang up on one side. Marilyn wasn't just defending Alexis, she was rewriting the story to make me the villain. I've seen this before. A buddy of mine, Tom, went through a breakup where his ex's mom called him, accusing him of breaking her daughter's heart after she cheated. Families often rally around their own, facts be damned. Marilyn was doing the same, painting Alexis as a victim while ignoring her betrayal. I stayed calm, laying out the facts. "Marilyn, the house is my premarital property. The cards were on my accounts. The money I sent her was a gift, not a contract. Alexis chose to leave. I'm just respecting her decision." Marilyn wasn't having it. "You're cruel," she spat. "She tried to get into the house yesterday and you changed the locks? Who does that?" "Oh, yeah, that's right. Alexis had tried to sneak in while I was at work. Good thing I'd swapped the locks the day after she left." "It's my house," I said. "She moved out. I'm protecting what's mine." Marilyn hung up, calling me a few choice names I won't repeat. That lock change was a game changer. It wasn't petty, it was practical. I'd heard horror stories, like a woman on Reddit whose ex-husband let himself into her apartment and took half her furniture while she was on vacation. Changing the locks was my way of drawing a hard line. If Alexis wanted back in, she'd have to go through me, not sneak around. But the drama didn't stop with Marilyn. Later that day, I got a Venmo request from Alexis for $500, 0 cents, labeled emergency. No explanation, just a demand. I declined it, texting back, "Talk to Vincent." Harsh, maybe, but I was done playing her game. Then came the texts. Alexis flipping between begging and blaming. "Please, Logan, I'm in a bad spot," followed by, "You're heartless for doing this." I didn't respond. Every message was a test, and I wasn't failing it. This push and pull reminded me of a real-life case I read about. A woman, Sarah, shared on a forum how her ex kept texting her after their split, alternating between guilt-tripping her and demanding money for shared expenses. Sarah blocked him and he showed up at her work. Like Sarah, I knew Alexis wouldn't back off easily. She'd keep pushing, hoping I'd crack. But I'd already decided, no more enabling. By Sunday, Alexis escalated. She emailed me, copying Marilyn, with a formal-sounding message. "Logan, reinstate my access to our joint resources, or I'll pursue legal action." Joint resources? We didn't have any. The house was mine before we married, and I'd kept our finances separate for exactly this reason. I forwarded the email to my lawyer friend, who laughed. "She's got nothing," he said. "No court's going to force you to fund her after she abandoned the marriage." That gave me confidence, but I knew Alexis wouldn't give up. Here's the bigger picture. When you set boundaries, people who benefited from your generosity will fight back. Alexis and Marilyn were used to me being the provider, the fixer. When I stopped, they lashed out, trying to guilt me into compliance. It's like when you tell a spoiled kid they can't have candy, they throw a tantrum. But if you hold firm, they learn. Alexis was learning, slowly, that her choices had consequences. As I sat on the couch that night, papers scattered around me, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and resolve. Marilyn's call, Alexis's Venmo stunts, the legal threats. It was a lot. But I wasn't scared. I'd protected my assets, consulted a lawyer, and stood my ground. The house felt like mine again, not a battleground. I poured another whiskey, savoring the quiet. What's the takeaway here? When you say no, expect pushback, especially from people who've taken you for granted. Family like Marilyn will try to guilt you, and exes like Alexis will pull every trick to get their way. But standing firm isn't just about winning, it's about reclaiming your life. I was ready for whatever came next, and trust me, the drama was far from over. Stick around, because the final chapter of this story is where it all comes together. After Marilyn's fiery call and Alexis's desperate Venmo requests, I braced myself for the next wave of drama. Alexis had threatened legal action, and I knew she wasn't bluffing, but I was ready. I'd protected my assets, consulted a lawyer, and stood firm through every attempt to guilt me back into her chaos. Months later, the dust settled, and the outcome was clearer than I could have hoped. This is the final chapter of my story. How I closed the book on Alexis, rebuilt my life, and found peace. It's about consequences, self-respect, and the power of letting go. Let's wrap this up. First, let's talk about Alexis's legal threats. She hired a lawyer, some guy who sent me a letter demanding spousal support and access to marital assets. I forwarded it to my lawyer, who practically chuckled. "Logan," he said, "she's got no case. The house is premarital property, your accounts are separate, and she abandoned the marriage." We sent back a polite but firm response outlining the facts. Alexis left voluntarily, had her own income, and had no claim to my assets. Her lawyer backed off, and the threats fizzled out. Alexis's dream of a big payout? Dead on arrival. What happened to Alexis? Without my financial support, her lifestyle took a nosedive. Her part-time styling gig wasn't enough to sustain her old habits. She sold her car, the one I'd paid off, because she couldn't afford the upkeep. Last I heard, she was working full-time at a department store makeup counter, living in a cramped studio apartment. Vincent, her friend, vanished once the money dried up. No surprise there. I didn't gloat, though. I didn't need to. Alexis's choices caught up with her, just like I knew they would. As for me, I made big moves. That house we'd shared? Too many memories, too much baggage. I put it on the market and it sold fast. I used the cash to put a down payment on a new place, a sleek, modern house closer to my job with a view of the city skyline. No ghosts of Alexis in those walls. I also filed for divorce. My lawyer said it'd be straightforward given Alexis's abandonment and our separate finances. The process was still ongoing, but I wasn't worried. For the first time in years, I felt unburdened, like I'd shed a weight I didn't know I was carrying. Let's reflect on this. Alexis's downfall wasn't my doing, it was hers. In psychology, there's a concept called self-sabotage, where people undermine themselves through poor choices. Alexis thought she could leave, keep my money, and live her best life. When that backfired, she blamed me, then Marilyn, then the world. But the truth? She built her own trap. I've seen this pattern elsewhere. Take my friend Rachel. Her ex-boyfriend quit his job to find himself, expecting her to cover rent. When she stopped, he called her selfish, but within months he was back at work, humbled. Choices shape outcomes, and Alexis learned that the hard way. I want to share another real-life example to drive this home. On Reddit, a woman posted about her sister who left her husband for a better life, but kept asking him for money. When he cut her off, she spiraled, losing friends and stability. The sister eventually got a job and apologized, but the damage was done. Like Alexis, she underestimated the cost of her freedom. These stories show a universal truth. You can't run from responsibility forever. For me, moving forward wasn't just about selling the house or filing for divorce. It was about rediscovering who I am. I started small, rejoined a gym, picked up hiking on weekends, even tried cooking again, minus the burnt pasta. I reconnected with old friends, guys I'd neglected during the marriage. One night, over beers, my buddy Dan said, "Logan, you're back, man, the real you." He was right. I wasn't just surviving, I was living again. Now let's get to the lessons, because this story isn't just about drama, it's about growth. First, protect your boundaries, no matter who pushes back. Alexis, Marilyn, even her lawyer tried to break me, but I stood firm. That's not cruelty, it's self-respect. Second, know your rights. I was lucky to have a premarital house and separate accounts, but consulting a lawyer gave me confidence. If you're in a tough spot, get advice. Don't guess. Third, let consequences do the talking. I didn't need to yell or fight. By stepping back, I let Alexis face the fallout of her choices. That's more powerful than any argument. The biggest takeaway? Your peace is worth fighting for. I spent 10 years building a life with Alexis, and when she walked out, I could have let it define me. Instead, I chose me. I chose to rebuild, to find joy in the little things, a new house, a good hike, a night with friends. This wasn't about winning, it was about living true to myself. As I stood in front of my new place, keys in hand, I felt something I hadn't in years. Hope. The divorce wasn't final, but I was already free. Alexis was a chapter, not my whole story. I didn't need her to lose for me to win. I just needed to keep moving forward. So, what do you think? Have you ever had to set a hard boundary or let someone face their consequences? Drop your stories in the comments, I read every one. If this story hit home, give it a like and hit that subscribe button for more real-life drama. I've got plenty more to share, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.